So I think it's safe to say that this was a bit of a questionable week for Sony and the PlayStation brand. I don't think that they necessarily anticipated sort of the reaction and consumer perception that is now being thrust upon them with their actions over the course of this past week. So I kind of want to talk about all of that stuff, but I also want to talk about the big but in the room, because there is a but that is looming on the horizon. But in the same breath, I'm kind of like, well, if that but is looming on the horizon, it just leads me to more questions than I originally had. So to start things off, it was actually a good week. You know, you had the launch of Astrobot happening at the tail end of last week, and many people that are playing this game are thoroughly enjoying it, myself included. This is one of my favorite games of 2024. It is a great 3D platformer. The final boss battle, a little questionable with that, just in terms of difficulty, especially considering that I felt some of the other world's boss battles were a bit more challenging than the final boss battle, but it's a great celebration of the history of PlayStation. It is a great celebration of 3D platformers. It looks great, it plays great, it feels great. There's tons of secrets, tons of things to unlock and discover. A thoroughly enjoyable game. One of my favorite games of 2024. I made a full video on it. Be sure to go check that out. There is something kind of looming over this game, though, and that is in terms of sales. Now, we obviously haven't gotten much in terms of sales data, but we did get some information out of the UK when it comes to physical things, and it's probably not the best in terms of sales data thus far. Now, this obviously is one specific region. Just looking at physical stuff, digital can make this a completely different story. But when comparing it apples to apples with Ratchet and Clank or Rift Apart in terms of physical sales, Astrobot is not selling nearly as well. Now, many people will be quick to point out and say, well, Ratchet and Clank is an established franchise. Of course, that's going to sell faster and better for the PS5 than something like Astrobot would. But to that, I say, look at the landscape of when Ratchet and Clank came out as opposed to when Astrobot came out. There are a lot more PlayStation 5 systems out there right now than there were when Ratchet and Clank came out. So if anything, I think Astrobot should be outselling that game. You know, I loved Ratchet and Clank or Rift Apart, but I think Astrobot is kind of the new hot thing. It's what, you know, Sony's big holiday game. What are you going to buy? You going to buy Until Dawn remastered, remake, whatever for $60? Nobody's buying that. Nobody's buying Concord. So what are PlayStation 5 owners playing? They should be playing Astrobot because it's one of the best games of 2024. And I think it'll be a slow sales thing. And, you know, when we see other regions, it could end up doing better. Japan, it's looking a little suspect as well. But hopefully, when we get some NPD numbers, Astrobot is at least in the top 2. Like, I hope for the sake of this game, but probably not the strongest start in the world. And maybe Sony anticipated it to some degree, but maybe they didn't. But of course, all of the goodwill of Astrobot in this game being an amazing game was completely unraveled with the PlayStation 5 Pro unveiling. Good old Mark Cerny, turtle, Dana Carvey looking ass came out there and showed us the amazing PlayStation 5 Pro. And at first, I was annoyed with it, but that was when I thought it came with a disc drive for $700. And then I realized it didn't. And then I was like, this thing, I don't like this thing at all. And, you know, it's for a myriad of reasons. The price, I think, is ridiculous. The need to have an attachment to play physical games, I think, is ridiculous. The fact that they're not making many of those attachment drives, they're sold out already. So what are people doing? They're scalping them. How are we having PlayStation 5 scalping stuff in terms of the PS5 Pro before pre-orders are even up for this system? It's absolutely ridiculous. But Sony isn't going to make a lot of those disc drives. They don't want you to play games via a disc. They want you to play games that are digital only because they can control the marketplace. Of course, we had the amazing comparisons that, I don't know, it didn't really wow many people. I mean, yes, there were some improvements, but for the most part, I think most people looked at that and said, well, that's not really worth, you know, all that sort of money. And yes, you could trade in, your PlayStation 5 somewhere. And, you know, I know GameStop is offering like, I think $400 or something for PS5 trade-ins. But eventually what's going to happen is, if this is something that a lot of people are interested in, that being the PlayStation 5 Pro, GameStop is going to adjust the price of that. They're going to pay you less and less and less as they get more and more PS5s in. It is an investment. It is a large investment. And it seems like for many, the return on investment isn't really worth it. You know, I know Digital Foundry did some stuff with it as well, and they showed off some screenshots, and like, you know, that's cool, but is it worth this big of a dollar upgrade with it? When you look at the official PlayStation 5 Pro trailer over on Sony's YouTube account, I mean, it's been downvoted to hell. And you could say that it's, you know, trolls or grifters or something like that, but I don't think it is. Like, this isn't a sort of video game political standpoint. Like, this is just showing a new system off. This is just showcasing what PlayStation has been working on in terms of a new system. There is no biases attached to it. It's either you watch it and you like it, or you watch it and you don't. You watch it and you want to buy one of these, or you watch it and you don't. Of course, we talked all about the different sort of caveats with it. You can just add ray tracing or do a slight resolution increase to have your game be PS5 Pro enhanced in terms of marketing, but it still runs at the 30 frames per second, which kind of leads to a bigger conversation as to why companies are not prioritizing frame rate instead of resolution. Like, if you have restrictions in terms of resolution, you know, prioritize the frame rate. Like, I don't think many people play the games on graphics fidelity mode as opposed to a performance mode. Every game I play is performance mode because I want the game to perform at its optimal level. And when the games aren't performing at their optimal level, I'm not going to play that mode. And I feel like a lot of people do that, but to be able to circumvent it is kind of ridiculous. So people don't seem to really be feeling the PS5 Pro. Astrobot isn't lighting the world on fire in terms of sales, although it should be. That game is great. I highly, if you own a PlayStation 5, there is no reason for you not to own that game. It is that good, and it's ridiculous that I even have to mention that, you know, it seems like it's not coming out of the gate super strong, because I'm sorry, what the hell else are you playing right now if you're not playing Astrobot? You waiting for that Until Dawn thing? 'Cause I'm not. I love that game. I ain't paying $60 for it. But like I said at the start of the video, there is the but looming on the horizon, because now, supposedly, and I know what you're saying, this was an 8-minute run up to the but. No, the whole video is encompassing of everything. You have to bring everything to the forefront. You got to bring all the information to make the but, you know, appeal to more people. People are going to take that wrong. But with the but on the horizon is the fact that allegedly there is a mysterious Sony State of Play presentation happening in like 2 weeks. And many people are lining it up timeline-wise to happen a couple of days before the PlayStation 5 Pro pre-orders go live to where people can get it. So many people are now assuming, hey, this is where they're going to show off the PlayStation 5 Pro and show games running on it, and, you know, maybe show some more comparisons and stuff like that. Like, this is going to be the showcase. To that I say, well, then what the hell was the point of this? Like, I get it. Mark Cerny wanted to come out there and talk about a bunch of technical mumbo jumbo that 95% of the audience didn't know about. But you could also include that in a state of play presentation. A state of play presentation, by definition, isn't a super long thing. So Cerny could have done this whole, like, you could have had the second half of this. You could have done a 2-in-1 presentation with this, where you start off with the PS5 Pro and then you lead in with some new games. Because, well, when it comes to Sony, a lot of people are wondering, you know, what are the future games for the platform? And if you're going to be showing off PS5 Pro, either enhanced games or games that fully utilize the power of the system, I have to question why you would do such a questionable and bad first impression. Like, does nobody read the room at these companies? I'm sorry about that. My phone just went off. But does nobody read the room at these companies and understand kind of you know, what markets look like, what people are willing to pay for things, how the economy works right now. Like there's such a large disconnect from video game industry people to the common people that it just it's so unchecked. It's so ridiculous. And that's why you get these echo chambers of things online. You got Jeff Keighley, my friend Jeff Keighley, my compadre. He's sitting there glazing this system, glazing the price. Like, oh, look, well, this cost this back then. And if you do inflation, and it's like, my brother in Christ, I didn't have to pay for online. I didn't have to pay for a freaking disk drive with this. Like if you plan on doing a bigger unveiling and actually showing off games instead of talking about technical mumbo jumbo, why do that in the first place? You know, and now your expectations are higher than they probably were for this state of play. Whenever this state of play gets announced, there's going to be big expectations. There are a lot of questions to be answered for PlayStation right now. And will this be able to suffice for enough people to where they are happy? It's a very what have you done for me lately industry. You can forget things. Everyone's already forgotten about Concord after Astrobot came out. But now it seems like everyone's forgotten about Astrobot now that the PlayStation 4 Pro information came out. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Let me know what you think about this in the comments section down below, though. Do you think this is, you know, what do you think about this PS5 Pro? I've seen some contrarian things out there where people are now super excited for it. And like, you know, that's cool. You know, I'm not going to tell you that you know, how to spend your money. I'll advise you. I'll be like, hey, you know, it's probably not the best thing in the world. But, you know, if you want to buy it, like buy it. If you want to pre-order it, pre-order it. For me, I think I'm out on it. Like, even though, you know, people, I don't know. It's just, it's not something that appeals to me. It's just not. And go buy Astrobot. You know what? Don't buy the PlayStation 5. Now I am telling you what to do with your money. Don't buy the PS5 Pro. Buy Astrobot. Buy several copies of Astrobot because that game's great. And I don't understand why more people aren't buying it at rapid rates. Weird. Weird. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Sorry about my phone. I don't know why it's making noise. It's always on vibrate, but hey, you know, whatever. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.